We've talked about serial killers and familicides on this show, but one topic that we haven't touched on yet is family serial killers. So why not start at the beginning? The Benders are recognized as America's first family of mass executioners. They ran an inn out of their Kansas cabin, and every time a guest sat at the seat of honor, they'd disappear forever. We set the scene in the rural area of Labette County, Kansas in April of 1873. In the fall of 1870, a group of spiritualist families moved to Labette County, a region near the town of Cherryville. Among this group of families were the Benders, a German immigrant family that included the father, John, who was around 60 years old, his wife, Elvira, who was 40 to 50 years old, their 20-ish-year-old son, John Jr., and daughter, Kate, who was also in her 20s. So John Sr., or Pa, claimed 160 acres of land for his family to live on near the Osage Trail. On Pa's land, the family built a small cabin, a barn, a pen for their animals, and they also dug a well. The back of the cabin was where the Benders lived, and in the front there was a store for groceries as well as an inn for visitors passing through to stay at. But as safe and quaint as the inn seemed, that was far from the reality faced by those who would visit. After opening their store and inn in 1871, the Benders welcomed many travelers who needed a bite to eat or a place to stay overnight. The daughter, Kate, was soups, pretty and outgoing, and claimed to have psychic and healing abilities. Kate was responsible for bringing in most of their customers in with her charm and witchy vibes. But some of these visitors started to go missing after checking in at the Bender Inn. During this time, some people were even discovering corpses in the area. In May of 1871, a man was found lifeless in Drum Creek. About 8 or 9 months later, 2 men were found in a similar fashion. At this point, somewhere around 10 people were reported missing, including a guy named George. When George's wife passed away, he made the decision to move somewhere new with his 18-month-old daughter, Marianne. He bought some horses and a wagon from his neighbor William York and set out for Iowa. Sometime after George left on his journey, William was told the team of horses he sold George was found abandoned near Fort Scott, Kansas. And when William got to that location, he confirmed that those were the horses he sold to George. After searching for George and Marianne and coming up empty, William decided to head back home. But on his way, he stopped at the Bender Inn, which was a choice that forever changed his fate. Just like George and Marianne, William completely vanished. This missing persons case was a much bigger deal to the public though, because William York was a well-known doctor. Not only that, but William's brothers were hotshots too. Edward was a colonel and Alexander was a Kansas senator. So once Alexander and Edward found out their brother was missing, they were determined to find him. Colonel Edward led a team of 75 men on a search of Labette County, and the group made their way around the region searching people's land and asking them some questions about William's whereabouts. For the most part, everyone was pretty cooperative, except the Bender fam. So he rolled up to the Bender Inn on April 3rd with armed men. At first, Elvira, or Ma, pretended to not understand what Edward was saying, acting as if she only knew German. And if Ma was lying about not knowing English, there's no telling what else she was lying about. Well, with all the drama and rumors floating about, the local township held a public town meeting in the schoolhouse to brainstorm the best way to handle the situation. In the meeting, the townspeople agreed to search every homestead to look for evidence of the missing people. And I'm sure the Benders were absolutely losing their cool, but they were saved by the weather. By that, I mean the weather was awful, so the searches weren't able to commence until days after the meeting. And after that period, one of the Benders' neighbors, Billy, noticed the Bender Inn had been abandoned and their farm animals were starving. He also noticed a powerful and awful smell coming from the trapdoor in the ground. When the search party arrived at the Bender Inn, there was still no sign of the family. The group made their way to the smelly trapdoor, and one of the searchers pried it open. Underneath the door, they found an empty room that was soaked in vital fluid. The volunteer investigators dug around under there but didn't find anything that would explain the fluid or the smell. But then, they made their way to the garden and shit was about to go down. So Ma and Kate regularly tended to a garden and apple orchard that was always super fresh. Neighbors mentioned it was plowed on the reg. Oh, you mean to say the Bender family was constantly digging while their guests were going missing? Huh. The search party started digging around until a body was discovered. It was William. The townspeople kept digging and kept finding victims. People immediately started trying to piece together how and why all this happened until they reached this theory. So when the Benders would host guests for dinner, they'd offer them the seat of honor. This specific seat backed up to the curtain that divided the inn from the Benders' living quarters. And unbeknownst to the travelers, the seat of honor was also positioned over a trap door. As this theory was floating about, one man recalled a visit to the Bender Inn that seemed to validate the story. Just like their other guests, this man was offered the seat of honor, but for whatever reason, he refused to sit in that specific chair. Ma was not happy and reportedly got violent before Pa and John Jr. popped out from behind the curtain. The visitor thought the whole situation was strange, so he decided to leave, but never did he ever think the Bender family was planning to snuff him that day. Yo, that man is so lucky. Even with the reward money, no one was able to track them down, and in the years following the crimes, numerous women were arrested because they were confused as Ma or Kate. One guy was apparently arrested in Idaho as Pa, but he cut off his foot in an attempt to escape and lost too much fluid to make it out alive. He was already too decomposed before a positive ID could be made. Some speculate the Binders were in St. Louis, others say they went to Texas or New Mexico, but at the end of the day, it's all one big scary mystery. On a totally unrelated yet ironic note, I made this no-bake dirt pie if anyone's hungry. No? Me neither. I guess I'll see you next time then.